like to do today is get your version of what happened.
Hi, this is Anthony C. Ferrante, the director of all those Sharknado movies. And along with Reverend Entertainment and Shout Factory, we want to welcome Steve Johnson, the makeup effects and creature designer guru on Big Trouble in Little China.
Hey there, good to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while. Congrats on the Sharknado movie business.
Well, thank you very
That
much.
turned into a whole industry for you.
Yeah, it's look, without Carpenter in these movies, I don't know if I would have had that light bulb go off in my head and want to make them. So it's kind of full circle. It's kind of an honor to be here to kind of moderate this with you.
Well, cool. Well, I hope you remember more than I do because how old is this movie? Was it 35, 36 years old now?
It's, I think, 1986. So what does that make it?
34 years old.
Yeah, 34.
Yeah,
Wow.
how can I remember anything?
And that was a summer that you had not only that, you had Aliens and you had The Fly, David Cronenberg.
Yep, that's right.
It was an amazing summer. So I wanted to ask you, you had some history with Carpenter originally on the Fog. That was like the first thing you worked with him on?
Yeah, but I really didn't work with him. It was very peripheral. I was working for Rob Bottin at the time, the genius behind The Thing and Explorers and Inner Space and RoboCop and all of those things. I think it was right before we started The Howling. And right after a movie that we did called Tanya's Island, which was almost a soft porn Beauty and the Beast thing. It was really kind of interesting movie. We made a beast suit for it, designed by Rick Baker, actually. And he got this call from John to do, because he was already talking to John about doing The Thing at this point, and John was doing The Fog, though, before The Thing.
Yeah.
And he got this call to play the captain. And there's also, in one of the trailers, a huge oversized hand we made. And I can't even find it online anymore, but somehow the aspect ratio, the depth of field, the depth of focus, John needed an oversized hand, so we made that as well. But I was never on set,
Okay.
so I didn't actually meet John yet.
You were the guy in the shop getting all the fumes and ingesting into your system, and
No, Rob actually did, because I don't know if the viewers know how this kind of thing works, but we sculpted this big oversized hand, and Rob was meant to wear it as a glove. So his hand kind of barely even went into these large oversized fingers. And to save time, we put latex in the mold, closed it, stuck Rob's hand in it, and poured it full of polyfoam. Polyfoam, for those of you that don't know, is a very poisonous two-component chemical that when the two components mix together, it foams up and rises, and it releases cyanide gas. And we wrapped Rob's arm in saran wrap, but it melted straight through. Yeah, and so we had to pull the halves of the mold off and then just razor blade cutting Rob to shreds. I hope Rob never listens to this. That's not a story he's proud of, I'm sure.
did it hurt his arm or anything? Did he have a scar or something?
I don't know if he still does, but
Oh.
it was no fun.
So you did a little work on that, and then when did it come around to? Is that the only interaction in the John Carpenter world until Big Trouble in Little China?
Yes, other than enjoying his films.
So talk about getting to the point with Big Trouble. I mean, you were working on a lot of stuff at the time. That was like the heyday, the early 80s.
It was, and we were working at Richard Edlund's Boss Film Corporation at Marina Del Rey, and Richard is an amazing man, and he had already hired me to do Ghostbusters. That was the first film I did with him, Randy Cook and I, who now has 3 Oscars. He won 3 Oscars consecutively for the Lord of the Rings series for digital animation, for visual effects. I have none. I hate the guy at this point. But Randy and I set up the Ghost Shop on Ghostbusters. It was the first time I had worked with Richard. And what was the next film? It was the next film after
Fright
Ghostbusters
Night?
was Fright Night.
Yeah.
And I believe the next one was Big Trouble. No, the next one was Poltergeist 2.
Oh, okay.
Then we did Big Trouble. So yeah, that's how the whole thing started with John. But I'm telling you that like you said, the heyday of makeup effects back in the early 80s was unbelievable. It was such a magical time.
Well, it seemed to me like also, when you go back, you hear, okay, well, you had Rob Bottin and you had Rick Baker, and everybody was kind of working with everybody, and then they would splinter off and do something else, and then one person would create one thing, and then it would lead to another. With like the effects in the original Howling and American Werewolf in London, it was like 2 competing werewolf movies.
Exactly.
Yeah, they both kind of shared some DNA. So,
Yeah.
how was that time, and in terms of like the innovations and stuff, because it was constantly moving and evolving at like a quick speed.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, we were all trying to one up each other. I mean, we weren't necessarily trying to thrill the audiences as much as we were trying to thrill ourselves and show the other guys that we were better than them. I mean, that was the fuel that made all that stuff so great because it was in its infancy right then. And I've never been able to understand. At some point, maybe we'll talk about this. Yeah. But I've never been able to understand why, Madame Tussauds has been around for over 100 years, right? Making perfect wax figures, likenesses. Movies have been around since the kinetoscope, up another 100 years, right? Why did it take a young kid from Covina, Rick Baker, why did it take up until American Werewolf 80 years later to figure out you could make a likeness head of somebody and distort it? Because once the Howling and American Werewolf came out, directors started thinking, well, now, and writers started thinking, now I can put anything on screen that I can imagine. But before those two movies, you couldn't.
Now, was there more money at that time? Because obviously later on, budgets kind of got smaller and it was harder to do makeup effects on films. But because this was so successful, were they just throwing money at it? So that also helped and contributed to the evolution?
Absolutely. There was plenty of time, plenty of money to develop and to experiment. Because there were let's see, there was, in the very beginning, there was Rick Baker, Stan Winston, Tom Berman, and then Rob came along. And so when there's only 4 people that can do this stuff, you can set the price. And plus the studios had no clue how the stuff was done. It was just magic to them. So you could say whatever you wanted, and they had no choice other than to pay it.
And then it all changed.
Well,
so you eased into big trouble. So was it something where you had to make a bid for it? Because again, you got all your companies at the time, and everybody probably is going, I want this job or I want that job. How did you get Big Trouble?
Well, Richard Edlund got Big Trouble, Moss Film Corporation. Because the way it worked at Richard's place is we had 3 buildings. One was the optical facility. There was no digital back then. It was all photochemically processed, and they would actually have to build cameras, build optical printers. He worked in 65 millimeter, which was a proprietary frame size. So they had to build all of their stuff, which is kind of silly if you think about it. Why do that? But so Richard got the job, and I know now that he had about $2 million to do it. But here's the one of the most beautiful things about working under Richard's place. Again, so he had his own building. We had our own autonomous ghost shop, creature shop, which we shared with Mark Stetson, who ran the model shop. And then there was a series of sound stages in the middle. So we had this whole block in Marina del Rey, which was just magic happening everywhere. But the amazing thing about working at Richard's place that gave me a leg up from all of my competitors like Rick and Rob is that I had that whole optical toolbox to help do amazing things, so I could think differently when I designed the effects, because I knew I could go over to the optical build and say, hey, what if we do this? What if we do that? Can we approach it this way? And those other guys couldn't do it. So it was really cool. That's why some of our work looks so good on these films that we did in the early 80s there, because we had that whole additional box of tools optically.
Well, in a way, you got a jump start on what would eventually happen with visual effects,
Yep.
in the sense that, that blending of the two things. So, you were actually being able to think, 20 years ahead or 10 years ahead of where everything ultimately landed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and as we get into some of these effects, I'll explain a little bit further how that worked with hand-in-hand practical effects with the optical effects.
Well, I know the thing John Carpenter's thing wasn't a huge success at the time, but it was groundbreaking makeup effects. And then he went and I think he did Christine and then Starman before Big Trouble. But at that time, was there a thing with Carpenter where, hey, I did groundbreaking effects on this thing. We need to do that with this. Did he think in those terms, or did he trust the artists to kind of come to the table and go, this is what we can do?
You're feeding me a line here, Anthony. I'm glad you asked that question. Now look at John's history. Every single movie he did, he's worked with Rick Baker and Dick Smith on Starman. He worked with, obviously, Rob Bottin on The Thing. He worked with all of the greatest effects people, and every movie he had done were just loaded with effects. But I believe the film he did right before Big Trouble was The Thing, wasn't it?
No. Thing was, I believe, 82.
Yeah.
And then I think 83 was Christine, and then 84 was Starman, and then this was 86.
Okay. Well, by 1986, John was a changed man, because when Richard called me up and said, "Hey, we've got this new John Carpenter movie," I was so excited. Again, I said we were all trying to one-up each other. And it's like, I'm going to one-up Dick Smith. I'm going to one-up Rick Baker. I'm going to one-up Rob Bottin. This is my chance, finally, to show the world what a genius I am. I've got John Carpenter, the world's biggest effects fan. This is going to be amazing. So I came up with all these crazy ideas. And the first time I met John, we drove over. It was pouring rain. I drove over with Richard Edlin and Screaming Mad George to meet John in his office. And started talking about all, and I was so excited because I thought I finally had an ally, right? And it didn't go that well at all, because he, at that point, just wanted to get his shots done. And I have to say, there's another. So he didn't want to hear anything. Like the Wild Man, I wanted to put arm extensions on him. I wanted to do this whole Rick Baker kind of extended head. I wanted to do all these crazy things. And he's like, just put some asshole in a hobo suit and put some those big teeth you kids love so much on him. He'll be fine. Slap a wig on him. And I'm like, and I'm just fucking crushed every idea I had. And I'm like, and so, okay, we'll get back to that, John. I go, let's talk about Lopan's, the old age makeup. And he goes, old age makeup? What are you talking about? I'm like, old age makeup. He's 2,000 years old. We got to put a prosthetic makeup like Dick Smith did on Little Big Man. And he's like, no. We'll just get straight makeup to put some powder on his face. We'll be fine. And I'm like, he's 2,000 years old, John. He's like, well, how much money is that going to cost? How much time is that going to take on set? And so and then God only I wouldn't even talk to him about the flying eye at that point, or the sewer creature, or any of this other stuff, because he just wanted. I mean, he didn't want arm extensions because he got, between shots you got to take the arms off, and he wanted to go as quickly as possible. But one of the quotes I believe was from John was, "I'm sick and tired of makeup effects guys showing up to my fucking set in limousines and trying to direct my movies." Can't imagine who he was referring to on that. I don't think it was Rick or Dick. But in any case, he just wanted to get his shots done. But and he wanted to make. I mean, he knew he had. I mean, come on, it was a martial arts film, a huge, difficult film.
Well, there's look as a filmmaker, I know that these things are very hard, and you do have that pressure, regardless of whether you have a budget or don't have a budget, of trying to make your days. Now, that said, I did kind of break in, supervising makeup effects and, understanding like how long things are going to take. So, when you're designing something, it's like, okay, if we're going to have 3 hours prosthetic, I'm only going to have maybe 3 or 4 hours to do it. So I need to make sure whatever I'm doing, I'm not overextending it.
Right. Exactly. But
and
there was another factor, actually, that I wasn't aware of at the time, and it was that Golden Child, that Eddie Murphy movie, was slated to come out at the same time Big Trouble was. And they both were Chinese mystic, ghost, martial art, comedy, adventures, and adventure films. And there'd never been a movie made with all of those genres mixed up before. And now there's two of them racing for the same release date. And so Fox was forcing John to go very, very quickly. He only had about 10 weeks of pre-production and had to go really, really quickly so that Big Trouble could come out before Golden Child. And so, he was under a lot of pressure.
And of course, which movie has basically lived a longer life?
Exactly.
Which to me, Big Trouble was just one of those movies where it's unlike anything. The year it came out, just anything before and after it, it was just such an original, odd film. But the other thing that was really great is you have Kurt Russell as this. He's not really an anti-hero. He's like a bumbling idiot and basically technically a sidekick.
Yeah.
In the whole thing.
Who thinks he's the protagonist. Yeah.
And I think that was just so refreshing, because I think that was the height of, the 1980s machismo, superhero, it's Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and, they could do no wrong with the growl. And here's this guy that thinks he's macho and he just fails.
Yeah.
And I think that was another element. But the mysticism and all that stuff, a lot of stuff that John did in this movie, informed things that we're seeing, to this day.
Yeah.
And I give him a lot of credit for it. I think it's one of his best movies.
Yeah, I agree. It still holds up. I wish you would shut up so we could watch it. No, I'm kidding. But let me just get over this whole John thing that I just started. I don't want me to get the wrong idea about it. It's like, when you come in and you read a script, and you don't know what the cast is, you don't know how they're going to be directed, you don't know the director's vision yet, then it's not really up to you to tell the director what he wants. Although back in the early '80s, I was so bullheaded. I always thought it was my film. I'm going to tell the director what he wants. But see, I didn't realize the tone of the film. So John and I fought back and forth, back and forth, back and forth over almost every character design in the film. And ultimately I just went away and did what I wanted to do anyway. I did. I mean, look at Lopez. He's got a full prosthetic makeup on. But the thing is, I couldn't tell by just reading the script how John was going to direct the actors and what the tone of the film would be. So even though John and I went back and forth, I look at these characters, like particularly the Wild Man, they look really rough to me. They look very cartoony, and I was so unhappy with them at the time. And I thought, here was my big chance to show Rick Baker, Dick Smith, Rob Bottin what I could do. And John forced me to make these overblown cartoony characters. But the overblown cartoony characters fit the overblown cartoony film. So what's the lesson here? The director is always right.
Exactly. Though, that collaboration, though, I think it's important to kind of get that, you go, this is what we can do, and then you kind of finesse it and figure out where you land.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on the storms here in a few seconds here. So let's talk about the first thing that you kind of set out to do for the movie. What was the first order of business? Now, did the script change a lot too, or as they went along, or was it
not really, not to my memory, not regarding the effects.
Okay. So what was the first order of business for you?
Well, the first order of business was to design everything.
Okay.
And then figure out how we were going to actually make the stuff. And I think that clearly the most difficult technical challenge was the flying eye. I mean, there's no doubt about that, because Richard Edlin actually even had to invent a proprietary blue screen system so that we could shoot that, because we had so many cables, so many rods, so many activating devices coming out of the back of it that they had to actually go through the blue screen. So the puppeteers were working behind the blue screen. We made one flying eye that would work from the front, because we had all the apparatus coming out of the back, and we made one that you could shoot from the back, and all the apparatus came out of the front. And then we made a miniature rod puppet too, kind of like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man idea. We had a front version and a back version to hide the zipper.
Yeah, it also seems like you realize how much effort had to go into this before you had digital to be able to, you could just do this and you could just remove everything around it.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
It's like everything got a lot easier in some ways, but it was twice as hard, which obviously probably eats a lot of time up on set, because there's no margin for error because you have to get it right.
Yeah, well, luckily, though, we shot the very, very, very heavy, difficult stuff, meaning the flying eye stuff. We shot all that on our sound stages at Richard's place.
Okay.
So we could kind of relax about that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, thank God.
Did you have issues, though, in general? I mean, did you have to go through a lot of R&D before you got to the rig? If you had to develop this proprietary system, did that take a long time?
It did, but I don't really remember having a time crunch on this film. I mean, see, the way it worked at Richard's place when I was there, which was just absolutely magical, was that he handled all the money. And so I never had to worry anything. I had a safety net. I never had to worry about money. I never had to worry about anything. So if I had a crazy idea, I just put a guy on it. It was crazy. If I wanted to cover somebody with feathers or put in one at a time, I would just hire 10 people to do it. So I don't recall any time crunch at all for us. I mean, this was back when we had plenty of time to do stuff. I mean, if I recall correctly, we might have had, I don't know how much time we had. I have no idea. I can't recall anything correctly anymore. But I do not remember any, long all-nighters or losing sleep over anything.
Now, you said obviously you were able to work with Richard's side of things. So was there a balance between, like he would go, look, we have this really great idea, Steve, you need to do this, or was it informed mostly by you going, look, I'm going to do this, can you do that?
We were fairly autonomous. Richard very rarely came over to the studio. He really trusted us. And that's one thing, one of the most amazing things I learned from Richard in going out and starting my own studio is that not to micromanage. Because if someone working underneath you knows that they're trusted, they're going to do a lot better job and put a lot more effort and energy into it. And so he just totally trusted us to do whatever we needed to do, which was a beautiful thing.
What was the first film you saw from Carpenter? Was it Halloween or was it Salt or?
Oh God, you're asking me questions. I'm old and I'm senile. I don't know.
Well, do you have that first awareness of, I really love this filmmaker, what he's doing? I mean, was there?
Well, I mean, of course, the holy grail of all makeup effects from the rest of time throughout the universe will be The Thing.
Yes.
So that's what really made a mark on me.
I still am amazed. You watch that movie and it's flawless. There's a little bit of stop motion that kind of is dated, but
Yeah, Randy Cook's stuff.
Yeah, which just because.
Sorry, Randy. Anthony said that, not me.
Well, it looks great, but in terms of what our eyes are used to now,
Right.
it does stand out. But all the practical stuff, there's no flaws in that.
Yeah.
The shots.
Well,
that they use.
I don't know that I would. Hey, there's Carter Wong. In any case, I don't know that I would say that. And this is not sour grapes, but some of the effects, come on. Some of them, if you look at them, they're charming, but they're a little silly. But overall, it's obviously groundbreaking. Let me tell you a funny story real quick about Carter, the guy that played Thunder.
Yeah.
Later on in the movie, and it explodes. I had to go to New York to do his life cast, and we had him make a grimace face, and we did his full head life cast for the animatronic head that would begin the transformation, the inflation. And so we also had to take a life cast of his upper and lower teeth, right? And so when I pulled the tray out of the upper teeth cast, several of his teeth came with it, and I almost passed out. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? But as it turned out, it was just a temporary bridge.
Oh.
And that was a relief.
Did that become something in the arsenal of whenever you start doing teeth casts? It's like, do you have any temporary bridges?
Yes, or any loose teeth or any cracked teeth,
Wow. So, what were the challenges with creating the Explodo head?
Let's think. How do we do it? Well, it was a whole sequence. I mean, it was really fun because you want to talk about that now? You want to talk about it when we get to it?
Let's talk about it when we get to it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we got Lopan coming up pretty soon, don't we?
Do we?
I think.
No, I don't think we see him in his old age makeup for a bit. On a side note, speaking of commentaries, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
He's so creepy. Such a great character. Absolutely timeless. Hey, I'm telling you something. Just this morning, even last night on Facebook, every single day, I'm going through my feed, and God, that's so creepy. And there's a Big Trouble meme or something about Big Trouble constantly to this day.
Now, how much of this is you, and how much of it is straight makeup and hair?
That was all handled by straight makeup.
Okay, that was.
Yeah.
And we when we did the last Sharknado, James Hong came.
Oh, really?
And we got a chance to have him in there, and we had him do basically Big Trouble in Little China. He did.
Two girls with green eyes?
Yeah.
This one has fire as well.
We had like this Time NATO thing, and all these different people from Time, and so he gets to kind of pop up. And,
Oh, that's too cool. James is amazing.
And
I'm
I didn't know he would be willing to actually make a reference, and he was just all in, and he would go like he would do his whole thing, and he'd go, "You're in big trouble in Little China." So I was like, to actually be here and do this.
He is such a ham. I've stayed friends with him over the years, and I do Monster Palooza with him, and
he's
have
hilarious.
dinner with him, and I've been to the Bob Baker Marionette Theater with him. He's so funny,
and he's dry.
And he loves doing those impersonations. He has no problem with it. Stephen Jeffries, the guy from that played Evil Ed in Fright Night?
Yeah.
When you go to do a convention with him, people will constantly say, "Do the thing. Do the You're So Cool, Brewster." And he absolutely patently refuses to do it.
Wow.
He just won't do it. His excuse is, I didn't like doing it then, and I'm not going to do it now. I was paid to do it back then.
Well, when he
But
first...
you know what it really is? I have heard him. I made him do it once,
Uh-huh.
just a couple of years back, and the reason he won't do it is he can't do it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Stephen.
Oh, you're just gonna have this laundry list of people that are, like come back after you.
He knows he can't do it.
No, with James, it's like when you get an actor on set and they have a history and you're playing into that history, you never quite know what they're going to do, or if they're going to have an issue with it or not have an issue. And James comes in, he comes in, he's just very serious, and you go, he's going to rip us to shreds. And then, of course, instantly he disarms you, and he just becomes a goofball.
Yeah.
But it's like that. There's that moment, like, can I ask him to do this? And but
You can.
yeah, and he was fantastic. I had so much fun with him. He was so sweet.
Yeah.
And he just ad libbed and we shot more stuff than we needed with him, and he just did everything.
Yeah, this character, Lopan, and Jack Black's father in Kung Fu Panda are my two favorite characters. That duck, it's not just James's voice and performance, it's the animation. It's so funny. You had the noodle dream.
Did you now?
The secret is there is no secret ingredient.
How much time did you work with James? I know you did probably the life cast with him for the old age makeup.
Yep.
And I mean, did you get to spend a lot of time with him on set?
Oh yeah, tons of time. Not only life cast him again. This was my opportunity to show up Dick Smith, or so I thought, by doing the penultimate age makeup for the ancient Lopan character, and so I sculpted it myself. And what happened was I over-sculpted it because I wanted. What happens with art a lot of times is the quicker you get it out of your head, the closer it is to the original idea. You vomit it out. I learned it from H.R. Giger, working with him 3 times. Get it out as fast as you can. It's raw emotion. Let the audience fill in the details. It's going to be closer. It's going to be better. Keep it loose. But I wanted to show the whole world what a great makeup artist I was and sculptor, and so I over-sculpted it. And when I look at pictures of the makeup when it was unfinished, it's a better makeup. But again, it fits the style of the movie, but James's performance is just really.
Now, are you
fun.
talking about unfinished meaning at the sculpting stage, or are you talking unfinished when you were putting it on him on
No,
set?
no. I mean, not over sculpting. When you over sculpt something, it doesn't look as real as if you under sculpt it.
Mm-hmm.
Subtlety usually works a little bit better, and I over sculpted that definitely. But yeah, I spent a ton of time with James because, the makeup took 6 hours.
Oh,
and
wow.
He was in it several times.
And again, it probably was a 12-hour day or something, so they only got a little bit of time with him each day to shoot.
Yeah.
So what was the other challenge?
Hey, there's Kim. Kim was our biggest fan on set. She was so fascinated with all this stuff. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no. Now we're all just staring.
I know,
we're staring at
she's
Kim Cattrall.
She's so pretty.
She's cute. She's so good in this movie.
Yeah, she is. Their back and forth kind of 1950s, their relationship.
Great chemistry.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Did you get to spend some time with Kurt as well on set?
Yeah, but we didn't do anything with him other than stand next to him while he acted. We did. I mean, the hell of the Upside Down Sinners. We made all those bodies. We had to work underwater on that. But yeah, we were with him, constantly on set.
They work together so much. Did you notice? I don't think anybody really has talked about it so much. Is the fact of did you see kind of that sort of shorthand of since John Carpenter and Kurt Russell done so many movies together prior to that?
Not really. I was more worried about keeping John from blowing up. And also, you got to remember, almost every single thing we did here, I mean, I would even say, including that Lopan makeup, was really a difficult thing. So I was really focused with my team. I mean, the Hell of the Upside Down Sinners was difficult because it was underwater. That was like the first time I worked underwater, and then I ultimately became the underwater guy for Sphere, The Abyss, and everything else that was shot underwater. But, when you shoot underwater, God only knows what's going to happen, right? So that was nerve-wracking.
Was it heated?
Yes.
You say that with a smirk.
I didn't get in the water. I had my guys get in the water. I didn't get in the water on the Abyss or on the Sphere either. What do you think? I'm crazy? What the hell was I talking about? So the Fly Eye, incredibly difficult. I don't think anything that complicated had ever been built before as a single animatronic. The Wild Man, when we get to that, you'll understand how nerve-wracking that was to shoot on set. And even with James, because he was such an important character, I was just very, very focused on making sure everything worked as well as it possibly could.
Now, you grew up in Houston?
Yeah.
So, at what age did you decide you wanted to get into makeup?
I came out of the womb wanting to get into makeup. Really, I cannot remember a time when I didn't want to do this kind of stuff.
Was there a seminal movie, or was there just a thing that just
There was.
opened
No,
up your eyes?
for most of my peers, it was Planet of the Apes. But again, to me, I don't know what year did that come out?
It was the late '60s, right?
Yeah,
Oh
something
yeah,
like that.
you're putting me on the spot here. I didn't.
No,
I didn't
it's okay.
prep Planet of the Apes.
So in any case, but to me, I was a kid. I was maybe 9 or 10, and even though the edges were possibly invisible, and there were so many apes, and the movie was great, they just looked like a mobile mask stuck on somebody's face with good edges to me. So it really didn't. It did not inspire me. It did not get me. And strangely enough, almost all of my peers, that's what got them into this business. But what got me into the business, again, Dick Smith's makeup on Dustin Hoffman for Little Big Man. I think Dustin was like 24, and Dick Smith aged him almost 100 years. And it's just absolutely flawless. It's like scientific. It's so good. And even though I think the movies came out a couple of years apart from each other. Even though I was really young, the only thing that even at my young mind wondered, why didn't they just get a real old man to play that part?
Then what was the next step once you started realizing I'm fascinated by this? Did your parents get you like a makeup kit or something to play around with?
No, I shoplifted and then sold the stuff to my friends in school and used it to buy makeup supplies. And I mowed lawns occasionally. And you know what else I would do is when I was really young, like 14, I would do a slight age makeup of myself, put wax teeth in and a beard and a little bit of age and wear grungy clothes and go and actually get away with buying beer when I was underage. And then I would sell it to my friends for double the price. I was quite the entrepreneur. I even started selling marijuana, but I had a great way to do it, and it was to fund my makeup endeavors. I worked at a grocery store.
Mr. Johnson, why were you doing this? Because I want to do makeup.
Exactly right. So I worked at a grocery store, and I kept, what we used to call lids, ounces of marijuana in my apron, and all the kids at school knew that if they came in there for $10, I would take their groceries out to their car for them and just give them I made so much money to put into my career doing that. It's so funny. And the funny thing about it is I was buying clothes, taking trips to Galveston. So my parents never even questioned why I was suddenly rich. Buy all the makeup supplies I wanted.
Did you ever reveal that to them when you were older?
Yes, I did.
And did they send you to a room for?
No, they didn't. But I still look back at that and it just cracks me up. It's like that they didn't notice. It's like, how oblivious were they? It's like, little Stevie, make sure you do your homework on the way back from Paris.
All right, so the shoplifting thing, like, what was the high ticket item that got you the most money?
Can we change the subject? We've been through my shoplifting, drug dealing, selling
You
beer.
brought it up.
Okay, we've covered it. Let's move. How about talking about Big Trouble? Wouldn't that be nice? Have we missed any effects yet?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think we're good. But no, what is the high ticket shoplifting
Stop
item?
it! No, you know what? That's that. I'm elaborating for comedic sense a little bit. The marijuana part was true.
Okay, but the shoplifting wasn't.
It's a little true. I would steal record albums. Here's the secret to shoplifting.
Yeah.
Don't look over your shoulder. Act like you know what you're doing. So I would just walk in, pick up an Elton John record, and walk out the store with it. Nobody ever would say a thing. I never got caught.
Do you?
Don't do this, kids. Don't. Just. Don't.
We gotta ask. What did you ever feel regret later about any of that?
Absolutely not. I'm a sociopath.
Okay, so after your life of crime that led to your makeup
It
career,
was just a couple of record albums, and everybody wants to smoke
you
marijuana.
went to Paris.
Marijuana.
It had to be more than just an Elton John record. There must have at least been a box set of something, like,
Big Trouble.
Big Trouble. All right,
I'm
so
going to run out of water in about 2 seconds, and that's going to make me choke. Is there a way to get some in here?
we can manifest it. We can call on. So, where did you guys shoot Big Trouble?
On the 20th Century Fox lot.
Oh, okay.
Right near here, actually.
That's cool.
Or wherever the hell it is. It's Sony now. Wait,
No.
no. It's still Fox, right?
Yeah, it's still Fox. No,
Yeah,
Fox is sold to Disney now. Yeah.
Right.
So you had, where was your shop? Your shop was
Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was kind of home base.
Oh, it was great because we had, excellent. Thank you so much. We had Fox, and we did a bunch of movies at Fox. We had what was Sony before it was Sony? It was Warner? No, not Warner.
It was Columbia Pictures,
Columbia,
TriStar, Columbia TriStar.
And we were right here in the marina, so it was really close to get to. It was really nice. Whereas now, in later years, when I opened up my studios in the San Fernando Valley, you couldn't get me out of bed if I had to do a job down here because of the 405 traffic.
Do you have a preference of shooting? Do you prefer to shoot locally, or do you prefer to shoot abroad? I mean, what is the most exciting part for you?
I love traveling.
Yeah.
I love traveling. I prefer that, actually. It's the best part of the business. It's like I remember reading about Rick Baker traveling to Iraq with Dick Smith to help him do the Max von Sydow old age makeup for The Exorcist. And I was really young when I read that, and that just ignited a wanderlust in me. And that was one of the major reasons I wanted to get in the business was the travel. And I've been really lucky. I've traveled all over the world.
When did you realize what the tone was for Big Trouble? When you finally saw it in the theater? Because you were talking about you weren't quite sure what Carpenter was doing until you go. Okay.
It really wasn't until I saw it.
Yeah,
it really wasn't. And the same thing on Ghostbusters. It's like, what a moron I am. When I read the script for Ghostbusters, I was like, I don't get it. But I didn't know Bill Murray was going to ad lib. I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was. I had no idea. And also you have to remember I was a kid. I was like 21.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's actually one of the great things about it, even though we're talking about Ghostbusters, not Big Trouble. The thing about Ghostbusters was all the creature effects were treated like it was a legitimate horror film in many respects, except for some Slimer was definitely comedic, but it felt like if you had no comedy, this was kind of a horrifying thing, and it worked really, really well.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, the terror dogs are scary.
Yeah.
I guess the librarian. When you get so close to it, I hear so many kids come up to me at conventions and shows and are like saying that the librarian thing, scared them witless for years and scarred them emotionally. I've never thought that was scary. It just looks silly to me.
But you're desensitized to this stuff.
Clearly.
I mean, because I disagree with you about the thing. I think because you spend so much time with makeup effects.
No, we'll watch it together. We'll watch it together sometime.
And then you'll pick it apart. Okay, all right, we'll do that. We'll do that in a different commentary. So let's talk about some of the other things that you did in Big Trouble. We've been a dearth of effects right now.
Thank God you're here because I would have just been sitting here wanting to smoke a cigarette because not talking about effects. Speaking of commentaries, I didn't get into this. The in Tropic Thunder, the Robert Downey Jr. character.
Yeah.
Is so into his character that even when they almost all, except for Ben Stiller, realize that they're not making a movie anymore, he still won't break character. And he goes, man, I don't break character with the DVD commentary. And have you listened to the DVD commentary for Tropic Thunder?
No.
Robert Downey Jr. comes in, Jack Black comes in, Ben Stiller comes in. And Robert Downey Jr. goes, howdy, boys. Let's get this thing rolling. And Ben's like, are you really going to do that? And he did. He did the whole commentary as Sergeant Lincoln Osiris, and Ben Stiller was pissed off. He was really annoyed. It's worth watching just for that.
Now, is it a video commentary or just an audio commentary?
Audio,
okay. That's crazy.
Well, it's genius.
Yeah. Well, no, I have mad props to Robert Downey Jr. He's always been consistent, but just though he has so many nuggets, and Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Endgame, just incredible.
Yeah, how he's probably Robert Downey Jr. is probably the only person in the world that could get away with that Osiris character.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if you could do Tropic Thunder today.
No,
I don't know if in
God, that really sucks because it's the funniest movie ever made.
Yeah.
So comedy is illegal now.
Yeah, it is. So don't make anything
Well,
funny.
you know what they say: comedy is anger's little brother.
So when you do the makeup stuff, how much stuff do you actually get your hands dirty when you're going to set?
The makeup stuff.
The makeup stuff.
You're good.
Hey, it's been a while since I've done the journalism thing, okay? It's now.
Hey, this is about to be the hell of the Upside Down Sinners.
Let's ease into this. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I don't remember how many. I think we already talked about it, but
Yeah.
we.
Did you,
One of it is one of the coolest ones. I had a body, a full. Yeah, look, it's got a crab on it and everything. I had a full fiberglass body mold. That one right there. See that one?
Yeah.
And I wanted to make a couple out of the same mold. So one of them, we just literally put a thin skin of latex in it and took the mold apart and just poured polyfoam in it so it would get all weird and bulgy and just unexpected. Hey, look at that. We finally talked about an effect while it was on screen.
Yay! I always found like skeletons. You see movies, and a lot of horror movies they fail miserably with skeletons because it's like they just bought it at the
Right.
the store, and then they just kind of put a little bit of dirt and stuff on it. Do you find that when you see?
A lot of times, yeah. I just saw Green Inferno last night, and I'm going to insult K&B now. Sorry, boys. A lot of their skeleton. I don't know though. Maybe they didn't. When you see those skeletons stuck on spikes everywhere, they really don't seem to be dressed very well. But that could have been the props department. A lot of time, props does this simpler skeleton stuff.
Yeah, production design does
because it's
some of that.
cheaper to have them do it than have effects people do it.
On my second film, we were in Romania, and we had all these bones and skeletons and stuff like that. And I told the production designer, I go, this stuff's amazing. It's like, yeah, it's real. I'm like, you're kidding me. It's like,
Oh, no.
no, this stuff is real. I'm going, you're serious, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And I'm going, you are never to mention this to any actor. Nope, there we are. Here we go.
Oh my God, he kills me. His performance kills me.
He's so good.
Look at him, but he looks ridiculous.
So
Okay.
talk about this. now.
Okay, I'll tell you. This very scene. Here's what happened in this very scene. Every time James opened his mouth, look at his hand trembling. Every time he opened his mouth, listen. Look at his brows go. Okay, this is what happened on set. Every time he would open his mouth, shut up, Mr. Button. Okay. So every time he would open his mouth, John would call action, and James would spout out something. I was behind the camera, and I would uncontrollably bust up laughing, and it would ruin the take. And so after the third time, John threw me off the set because I literally, it's like being in school or church and you're not supposed to laugh. It just got worse and worse and worse. Look, 'cause, I mean, who couldn't? John would probably, if we were on a porn set, expect me not to get an erection. Who's not going to laugh at that?
So,
You know what really sucks, though? Do you see that prominent cheekbone from the profile?
yeah.
That profile shot? His camera right, the one we just saw. This day, I'm still cracking up. This was the first day of the makeup shot, and I didn't realize it, but we brought in a piece of foam for his right cheek that was collapsed. But we had to use it because it was pre-painted already, and it's always pissed me off. This really pisses me off. Oh God, this makes me cringe looking at it now. It's so overdone.
And it's high def.
Oh my God, what was I thinking? Look, he's getting sad now.
When you have an
It
expressive,
really looks awful to me.
it looks good.
Well, my
know, 'cause
excuse,
you know that
my excuse is
inside and out.
it fits the tone of the film.
when you have an actor, the thing about makeup effects is it's a two-pronged component. One, you have the artist, and it's up to the artist to kind of create the cool thing. But it also, the second part of it is the performer.
Right.
You know, what does the performer do with the makeup, like you're talking about with him moving his eyebrows and stuff. So in creating this, when you met James, did you realize, oh, he's going to be very expressive. Let's make it flexible with the eyebrows, and let's make it so he can utilize his persona.
Well, you mean you always try to make it as expressive as possible.
Yeah, but some actors won't utilize it. They'll feel constricted with the makeup, and it'll
Well, exactly. But James was really, really good about that. I will tell you, his only complaint and his camp's complaint is they felt that this makeup didn't look like an old. I can't just keep a straight face. They felt that this did. You see why I was thrown off set now? They felt. They felt that it
36 years later.
They felt that it didn't look like an old Asian man. That it looked like old Caucasian makeup.
Oh, okay.
So anyway,
I don't see that at all.
Safer with me than any creature on earth. You know, the other thing about this makeup that I don't like, actually, and it seems glaringly obvious to me in that scene, is that I did eyelids, old sagging eyelids over his eyes to make them much more squinty. And we did a makeup test before we put it on film, and John would not let me use them. And so his eyes don't seem to be aged. I mean, I made new ones that were just very, very subtle. So his eyes don't seem to be aged at all. I mean, these days we would probably use contacts as well, but we didn't use them on this. But yeah, his eyes just look too bright to me. But again, hey kids, it fits the tone of the film. I did it on purpose.
Well, was that the first day with the old age makeup?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the first day.
Yep.
Okay. Did once you do it once, you kind of go, all right, here are the things that worked, here are the things that didn't. When you did it again, what were the things that you learned that you improved upon the second time around?
I clearly learned nothing. Look at that paint job. It looks like a clown. And I thought I was going to show up Dick Smith.
So you didn't improve upon the paint job.
Oh, my God, I was so cocky. But you got to remember, I was really young. And, there was the whole film industry was fueled by cocaine in the early 80s as well. So there was just a lot going on back then.
So you're saying that there was a lot of cocaine on this set?
No, I'm not saying on set. I'm not saying that. There was cocaine off the set. I don't know about other people, but my rule was never on set. Never on set.
That's good. So was there things that James wanted adjusted after that first time in the makeup too?
No, he was really, really cool. He was just as easy as anybody I've ever worked with. No problem whatsoever. Ken Diaz helped apply the makeup. I worked. Then there was one other person that I can't remember. It might have been Rick Stratton. So there were three of us that did the makeup. We didn't do prosthetic hands for whatever reason. I felt James' hands were old enough that using a stipple, that stretch and stipple technique with latex, would be enough. But the makeup still, with three of us, took about 6 hours, which is a ridiculous amount of time, even though it was all pre-painted and the whole back of the head is also a foam rubber bald cap, taking after Dick Smith's Dustin Hoffman makeup in Little Big Man. And each one had punched hair on it, so... Yeah, even though John didn't want to do prosthetics at all, I showed him.
Well, you also kind of think that, as good as some of the stuff is in the thing, even though you don't agree that it holds up.
I didn't say that. I said some of the effects don't hold up.
Some of the effects, yes. I'm giving you a hard time now.
No, there's like
I'm giving it back
like
to you.
2, maybe 3 effects that are just silly.
And which 3 of those?
I don't remember offhand.
But you could think about having been through something like The Thing, which was this massive effects-driven thing, could definitely give you PTSD as a filmmaker, where it's like, just keep it simple.
No, I'm sure that's what it was.
I don't want to be locked in a freezer with an effects guy for.
I'm absolutely certain that's what it was.
Because that took forever, didn't it? I mean, it was a long time, and they kept doing more and more.
It went way over budget, way over schedule, and that absolutely could not happen here because remember the race to beat Golden Child.
Now, were they committed to? This was a PG-13 movie, I believe. Was it designed as PG-13? So did you have like R-rated ideas that you wanted to put in some of this stuff?
No, I mean there's really no gore. You see a bunch of skeletons and dead bodies, but there's no gore. I mean everything is.
We had the Explodo head. I mean you could have done that 2 different ways.
Yeah, but that's handled. I mean when it's handled in a very silly way. And I remember going into John and saying, what we should do is when he explodes, we should have his head fly off, like when you inflate a balloon and you let go of it and it spins around the room. We should do that. That would be great. Have his head fly off and do that because it gets so inflated. And then everything else inside of him is confetti when it comes out. Because when I initiated the conversation, I said, John, I got a crazy idea for it. And he goes, no idea's crazy. No idea's too crazy. What do you got? And I told him those 2 ideas, and he goes, that's crazy. But it was always, the thunder sequence was always approached in a very cartoony way.
When my niece and nephew were young, probably like 7 or 8, I we would babysit them, and we would put Big Trouble on, and that scene would come up, and for a 7-8-year-old, it was the funniest thing. And every time they would come over,
I thought you were going to say it was scary to them.
Every time they would come over, they would want to see it, and so we would put it on, and they would laugh hysterically. It was amazing. It was like it was every single time they bring it over and show it.
That is so cool. That's the like one of the greatest rewards of being in the film industry is that all that kind of stuff happens and you never ever even know it. Like right now, I've done like a couple hundred movies and so much television, music videos all over the world. People are watching stuff I made right now, this very minute. I'm quite certain, and thrilling to it. And that's so cool. It's like a cool legacy. People are watching Sharknado now,
Well, the
and
thing.
tomorrow night they're going to watch your new movie,
Zombie tidal wave.
Zombie Tidal Wave.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so let's talk about the. Now that's a glowy.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about there.
Okay, let's go.
We were plugging our own work when missing the actual film. Well, okay, so here's the thing. This was after American Werewolf, and after I love the way he moves here, so creepy. It was after American Werewolf and after The Howling. This is so cool. And so here's an opportunity to do another transformation, right? But you can't really stretch a muzzle out to get a guy to go from a certain age to 2,000 years old. And so Richard and John and I came up with this idea and storyboarded it that he would go translucent, and then shards of light would come out of his mouth and eyes, and white out the screen. So one of the greatest things about working at Boss Film is we shot that against blue screen in two elements. The background plate of his lair was shot obviously on set, and then we shot the head and the hand separately. That way we could control them, because we had so many puppeteers. If we had to control all of the action of the hand illuminating and coming up, and the head doing all of its thing, that would have been too much. So what I did there is both the head and the hand are made out of, back then we didn't have translucent or clear silicones, so it's made out of what fishing lures are made of. It's called hot melt vinyl. So basically we just took 1 million fishing lures. We took the base that they make fishing lures out of, melted it, injected it into the mold of him as the old man, and then made an animated skull, literally like a skull, so you'd see it. And then when we lit it from within, you see the skull shape, you see all the veins that were painted on. But the trick there really was, it couldn't be painted from the outside, because then when you lit it from within, you wouldn't see it. It'd be opaque, right? So what I came up with is making the hot melt vinyl skin very, very, very as clear as I could, and then painting it with powders, just very lightly with powders, so that it maintained its translucency. So then when it's lit from the outside, the powder reflects the light. So when we shot it, it was lit from outside, the powder was reflecting the light, it looked solid. We faded the exterior light off as we faded the interior light on. So, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. This was all done post, right? This was not done on set.
No, as a matter of fact, I was wrong when I said that earlier. We did shoot we shot the hand at Boss Film. We shot the head on set.
Okay,
so it's not a separate element. We shot the hand. We shot the head on the real set, and then we shot the hand blue screen.
In figuring that out, I mean, was there trial and error? I mean, because you're trying to figure out how to do this stuff. Did you figure it out on set?
Tons of it. No.
Tons of R&D in the lab.
To get the translucency right, to learn how to fade up one light while we faded out the other, all of that kind of stuff. But I have to say, I mean, I was in charge of all of this huge team. We probably had 60 people working on this film, 50, 60 people. And so obviously I didn't get a chance to have hands on too much. So every time I would come up with an idea that was virtually impossible at Boss Film, I would come up with the idea, think about it, map it out, make sure it would probably work, at least worthy of a test. And then I would hand it over to Mark Wilson and say, make it work. And he always did, with a smile on his face. Mark Wilson, by the way, is the guy that played the Slimer in the original Ghostbusters. So we worked in the same, we shared a workroom. So he was right there. So it would made perfect sense that he would be there for fittings for Slimer. And then he was such a good technician. It actually challenged me to come up with stuff that he almost wouldn't be able to do. So it would then push him to figure out how to do it. And that's how we got a lot of really cool stuff done on a lot of these movies, was Mark and I trying to one-up each other.
What was an idea in this movie or any film where you had this genius idea of how to combine, practical, whatever, lighting, and you were convinced it was going to work, and you kept trying it, and you failed. It was a great idea in theory, but it was a bust.
Oh God, why do you want me to think about failures? I don't.
Well, I'm just curious. not necessarily failures, but obviously, you guys are trying to revolutionize things, and there's always going to be trial and error in doing the process.
Yeah, but the thing I learned from working with Rick Baker was, how you always think you can do something the second time around better? Well, what Rick always did is he budgeted and scheduled, so we would do it once, completely from A to Z, do a film test on it, and then no matter how good it was, we would start all over again and do it again. So I always tried to budget enough time so that if something didn't work, if I was trying to push the envelope too far, I would have plenty of time to take another approach. So I'd like to think nothing I've ever done has failed. I mean, it's a matter of opinion. Like this stuff I don't like. It looks very cartoony. We came very close to failing on The Abyss, but we didn't. That was a tough one. Let me tell you one more thing about that Lopan head.
Yeah.
So it was a rush to get it on set. That wasn't all-nighter on that. It was a rush to get it on set. We weren't really rehearsed. It was a second unit shot. John comes over from first unit because it was just a puppet with a bunch of puppeteers, right? And we do a take on it. And John goes, "Cut. That's a wrap." And I'm like, you don't like the effect? We can. We're rehearsing on film. You don't cut it out of the film, because I just thought he was going to cut it out of the film because it was just one shot. This incredibly expensive puppet we worked months on. And he goes, "No, I got what I need." I'm like, "No, you don't have what you need. We need to do at least 3 or 4 more takes." He's like, "Nope, got what I need. Thanks, Steve." Lit up a cigarette and walked out. That's a funny thing. You see behind the scenes shots of me working on stuff, and John too. Everybody on set, inside the sound stages, are smoking, which seems so weird these days.
I remember in movie theaters you could smoke
Yep,
a long time
yep,
ago.
yep.
Like that, it's like a different time and place.
I remember I was in London and I was working on American Werewolf, and I was sitting in the smoking section watching Mad Max, the original Mad Max, I think. And I pulled out my hash pipe and lit it. Like an idiot. And the usher comes up and he taps me on the shoulder. I'm like, "Oh, fuck, I'm going to go to jail." And he goes, "Sir, the smoking section is 2 rows back."
Like that makes a difference.
Exactly. Well, I'm also smoking hashish in a movie theater openly. Okay, wait a minute. Did you have a question that I didn't answer?
Oh no. I think we were talking a little bit about kids watching these things and stuff, and the thing is, we were kids, and we watched these movies, and they meant a lot.
We may be trapped.
And it's kind of paying it forward now that we get a chance to pay it forward to the next generation and hopefully inspire them to.
I'm trying to watch the movie.
Well, watch
here,
the movie. Let's turn the lights down. Get your hashish pipe out, and
Here it is.
he's
Hide.
and for Kurt Russell in this too is that for that era, for him to be able to make fun of the action hero.
Yep.
He's the only actor that could have pulled it off, and pulled it off as well as he does.
Here's something you might not even know, and I totally agree. I can't imagine anybody else in this part, but guess who the 2 other people it was offered to? Do you know?
Probably Stallone.
Nope. Clint Eastwood and Jack Nicholson were both offered that role and turned it down.
Really?
Yeah. Can you imagine either of those? I don't know if I would enjoy Clint, but I would really love to see Jack Nicholson play this role. But I don't think he would have been as charming.
No.
And Jackie Chan was supposed to play
I know
Dennis
about
Dunn's role.
Yeah. Now Jackie Chan passed, or the network or the studio didn't want him. I forgot.
I don't remember, actually.
Yeah, it was one of those confusing things.
Yeah.
That's
Also, I think a lot of people might not know. We can talk a little bit about the history. This was originally written as a Western in the Old West. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yep, absolutely. It was totally set. The original 2 writers set this in the Old West. And nobody liked the script. They bought it, thinking they'll do something with it later down the road, and they brought in a new writer who just thought it for a rewrite.
W.D. Richter.
Yeah. And they said, okay, there's the Wild Man's first appearance. It's so silly. Oh, my God. Why don't they make movies like this anymore? So they brought him in for a rewrite, and he goes, "Fuck, this is unreadable. It needs a total overhaul." And then there was a big battle over who got credit for it. And
Wow.
all Richter got was an adaptation credit, and the original writers did get the credit for it.
There's your
But
arm.
there he is. That's the arm extension John did not want. Oh my God, are we about to see that? There is so much to talk about that wild man thing. Again, a character that I hate. To the depth of my core, I think it looks so silly. Do you? Do you think it fits the film? Is that my excuse again?
No, I do think it fits the film. I think that you could have, look, you could have had something that was hyper
It's just
realistic.
not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go more realistic on it.
But remember, it's John's film, and John is right.
The director is always right, kids.
Now, they've been talking about a Big Trouble in Little China sequel or reboot or something, but I think it's one of those things. I don't know how you replace Kurt Russell.
They're
You
not.
can't.
They're not. I was just reading about that yesterday. I believe it or not, I did do a little bit of research for this. There he is. Oh God, that looks so ridiculous. Look at his feet. There's a funny story. Look
Oh
how
yeah,
ridiculous-
okay, yeah, all right.
There's such,
yeah.
okay, but there's a story about all of this.
Okay, let's start talking about it.
Okay. The stunt performer wearing that suit is a gentleman named Dana, and I can't for the life of me remember his last name. Look at it. Look at his feet, though. There's such a funny story about his feet. Look, he's the worst suit performer ever. Look, what's he doing? But look at his feet. Okay, here's the thing, and
He's
knew
on his
this.
heels.
But he knew this. Those feet were designed so that they would, after the original Lon Chaney Wolfman, where Lon Chaney Jr. walked up on his tiptoes, so it looked like he had a slight third joint, like a dog leg. So we cast. Oh God, I'm never going to be able to do this. This scene is so funny. See, the makeup looks much better here, doesn't it?
Yes.
I don't know what
Well,
that's
yeah,
about.
because it was a lot redder in that first scene.
I don't know what that's about. What was I thinking? Because it looks good here. I mean, part of it's the lighting, but that's not all of it. This one has fire as well. Two girls with green eyes. Oh my God. What is he? Why is he touching her? That's so weird. Okay, we should probably talk about the wild man. I just can't. He's so captivating. He's got real star quality. Okay, so we cast his feet in the up on his toes so we could get that Lon Chaney original Wolfman third joint. And he knew he was supposed to perform walking on the ball of his foot, right? So he'd get that third joint. And every single take, he was so belligerent. He hated wearing that suit. Every single take, I would just be cringing and I'd go up to him and go, Dana, walk on your toes. Remember, you have to walk on your toes. And he'd go, I got you, man, this time. And he's a huge black guy. And so John would roll another take, and you'd see those big, ridiculous, looks like clown feet, toes bouncing around. And I'm like, Dana, up on your toes like we discussed. Yeah, no problem, man. I got you this time. Another take, same thing. I'm like, God damn it, Dana, walk on your toes. And then I got up on my toes and goes, oh, you mean way up high on my tippy toes. Why didn't you say so? But then he never did it. So it made us look like idiots for creating those feet like that. And he was so difficult. You see that shot where he jumps through the hole?
Yeah.
He refused to do it. And he is a stuntman. That's why we hired him. He refused to do it. And he was threw a huge fit on set. And, you don't see, he was landing on a mattress. It was a dummy of Kim, I think. So he wasn't having to hold anything. It was a simple stunt fall onto a mattress. And I remember he was making me look like an asshole because they gave me several stunt performers and I hired Dana. And so I'm like, Dana, you have to do this stunt. You have to do it. What am I supposed to do? They're telling me I got to put somebody else in this suit, and it's not going to fit anybody else. It was made specifically for you. And he goes, why don't you put Mr. John, Mr. Moneybags, Carpenter in an orange suit, pitch his ass down that hole, see how he like it. I'm like, that is not the right attitude. We ultimately convinced him to do it. I think they had to pay him more money, though.
You got a pay bump.
Yeah, he was so difficult. And then years and years and years later, I ran onto him on another lot. No, I have to tell the other part of the story, too. When he goes, the first thing he said when I was freaking out about walking up on his toes, before it dawned on him that he was supposed to be walking on the ball of his, he goes, why don't you try walking on your toes for an hour? See how you like it. I'm like, I'm not being paid to walk on my toes for an hour. So years later, ran into him on another lot. He was doing some kind of daytime soap opera as a cancer patient or something. He was wearing a loose-fitting hospital gown. I'm like, hey, Dana, how's it going? He goes, Why don't you try wearing a hospital gown all day, laying in bed, acting like you sick when you feeling perfectly fine? How you think I'm doing?
So it was just his thing. That was
I
his, that was
guess.
his shtick.
I know, but the feet. Look at those feet. I mean, it's a travesty. That whole thing.
Was there any animatronics with the mouth or anything, or was it
Yeah, it's
radio
a full
controlled?
animatronic head. Kevin Brennan, my good friend Kevin Brennan, was in charge of this character. We had, of course, a whole team of people hand tying. The suit is a muscle suit underneath, built over his body, a life cast of Dana's body, and then on top of the muscle suit, we had a spandex suit, just the same way Rick Baker did the Greystoke suits. 'Cause I was just following in his footsteps once again. And that spandex suit was dyed and painted, and then the hairs were tied into it individually like lace. So it took forever. So we had a whole team working on it, engineering team as well. Yeah, it had animatronic eyes, it had a silly animatronic tongue, and animatronic stupid 1980s snarl mechanism, which nothing snarls like, animatronic jaw, all that shit.
Uh, doing hair punching is actually really difficult as well, and getting that correct.
Yeah. Yeah, but this suit was not punched. It's tied. That's even worse. What you do is spandex is that four-way stretch material that swimsuits are made of. So you stretch it out on a frame, and then you can get a needle into that weave, and you literally have to take a hair tying needle and get a single hair on it and fit it through the weave and tie it like one at a time. Can you imagine? When we made 30-something suits for Greystoke, there was only a couple suits for him. I think we had one and a stunt suit. The sewer monster is about to come up. We're finally getting to some effects.
No, one thing I was going to ask you too is I feel like a lot of times makeup effects artists are much better in suits than even stunt people, just for whatever reason. They're better actors in that respect. I don't know what that is. Do you feel that?
I absolutely do, but these days there's a whole contingent of people like Doug Jones.
Yes.
Like God, I'm on a blank now, but there's 4 or 5. There's this guy named Javier that just is in Scary Stories.
Derek Mears.
That specialize in this stuff, and they're really, really, really good at it. But see, back then, when we were doing things like Species and this, there wasn't enough work to have people that actually specialize in it. So it was just pot luck. You get a guy and hope, because the stunt team always wanted you to hire stuntmen, and stuntmen usually aren't very good actors. So it was hard to get good performances, and you always ended up, man, on Species 2, that giant Patrick creature. If I thought working with Dana was difficult on this, it was a nightmare on Patrick, that guy. But that was a really difficult suit. It was a torture device. Sewer creature coming up. Funny thing about this, it's almost like it's a huge animatronic. It's almost like it's not. There's tracks in the hole that it comes out of, like a roller coaster almost, and the whole device is. It's basically, it's just a giant animatronic, but it's not really animatronic. It's just on a track, and the giant spidery arms are attached to the stalagmites, so it looks like they're muscling it out. And when it swallows the guy, what we did is we did have somebody inside it, actually, though. We had a guy named Noble Craig, who I had met working on Poltergeist 2. Do you remember the vomit creature?
Yeah.
The little squiggly guy when it comes after Craig Nelson vomits the tequila worm, it crawls under the bed, transforms under the bed. When it comes out, it's Noble Craig in a suit and it's really cool because his story is when he Noble's story is when he was in Vietnam, when he stepped off the helicopter, he hit it right on a landmine, blew off one of his arms at the elbow and both of his legs. So he was really an amazing guy to work with on Poltergeist 2, unlike Dana. And then and so what we did is we stuck him inside that thing, and once stuck him inside the sewer creature, and once the sewer creature bites the guy, and you see the legs coming out of the sewer creature's mouth kicking, what that is that's Noble inside of the sewer creature's mouth with a fiberglass cap over his head, with 2 jointed, articulated legs sticking on his head. So he's just shaking his head around, and it's making the legs kick like crazy.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's all real simple puppetry because it's so big. And now I've talked about it before it came up. I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, this movie is just filled with so many imaginative ideas. And I can understand the studio, like, what the heck is this movie, and how do we how do we market it? And they ultimately didn't because they just didn't know what they had.
Yeah, I mean, what's the log line? How do you explain it? And it was a complete disaster, just like The Thing, financial disaster, just like The Thing was. And this is the last studio movie Carpenter made because of the reception. But look at the longevity that both The Thing and this have had.
Look at the
since.
longevity of all of Carpenter's films.
Yeah.
I think just about every single film he's done is save for like 2 or 3 of them, have been released through Shout Factory. They constantly get these reissues.
Mm-hmm.
People constantly
Why
rediscover them.
Why in the name of God is this being reissued again? This is like the 12th time. Oh, here it comes. It looks silly, but it's effective.
Yeah, it's
that
good,
I'm
it's
not.
quick.
I'm not. That one I have no problem with. That one I think it looks good, but particularly because it happens really quick and it's unexpected. Yeah, that one's a lot of fun. Yeah, but it was literally just like a railroad track thing, in and out, 2 shots.
And was there anything else designed for it, or was it just supposed to be a one-off kind
No,
of thing?
that was it. Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That was that was probably a very expensive monster to build.
It was, yeah. And these days, if you put it in a bud for if you put in a budget for all these effects that are in this film, that'd be the first one they cut out. I guarantee you.
Because it's not essential.
And it's always about money, always, always, always. And they go, well, we don't need that, and you don't need it, but it's fun.
Was there anything on this movie where you built it and they liked, John or somebody liked it so much they wanted to do more with it?
Not that I recall. No, remember we were up against it to beat Golden Child, so.
Well, and then Golden Child was actually pushed to winter that year as well. So was it supposed to also be a summer film? And then,
Yep.
And then once this got the date, then they go, okay, we need to distance ourselves.
Probably, and they were probably thrilled that it failed financially as well. Hey, you know that new deepfake technology
Yes.
where you replace someone's face but you get the original actor's performance? Somebody should do Jack Nicholson on Kurt Russell in this movie. That would be the next best thing to him really playing the part.
Yeah, that actually would work out really well. They have that kind of same kind of structure in a weird way.
Have you seen the Jim Carrey replacing Jack Nicholson in The Shining?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the one with also Bill Hader and the Tom Cruise thing.
That is so like Exorcist scary.
And is that somebody in a like a VFX studio taking time doing it, or is it just something like it's going to be a filter you just put on somebody and then?
No, right now the guy that's doing most of those is a guy. But he doesn't even live in America. He's I think he might be Russian, and he's a visual effects guy, and he's just doing it for fun. He says he's doing it as a cautionary tool for people to be aware of this in the future, how it might be misused.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but those are all coming from the same guy so far, all the popular ones you see on YouTube.
Wow. Yeah, it's impressive. It's really...
It is. It's weird, though. It's not... I mean, to me, it's like if you use the real person's hair and just replace the face, it's almost like you can't tell the difference sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not as striking as you would think it would be.
But it's gonna change the way these movies are done in the future. It's gonna really allow to de-age.
Hey, we
and
made
age.
all those, too.
You did all the sculptures?
Yep.
There's like 30, 40 of them?
Yeah, there are. Actually, when I say that, April Ferry made the costumes, but we made the heads. And then when they break apart, we made those as well. Yeah, there's a ton of them.
How much?
This is a nod to a hallucinogen. You do know that, right?
No.
When they drink the potion? Absolutely. Watch it again.
How much stuff did Kurt Russell ad-lib and how much of it was scripted? Do you know?
You know what? I couldn't answer that. A lot of it feels a little bit ad-lib, though, and I like that. Just like Tropic Thunder, there's so much ad-lib. Now, look, when James comes down that escalator, again, he was killing me. Oh, the flying eye.
There we go. Here we go.
That's the one that's the back one.
See, and that
So
actually looks really good.
All the apparatus is coming out of the front. That one is the one where all the apparatus comes out of the back. Yeah, I put Screaming Mad George in charge of this as well, and it's a ball buster. Look at that thing. There's so many motors in that.
And then the edges, you don't. It holds up pretty well with the.
You mean the mat?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good. Like that first shot of it coming from the back, and there's all kinds of air bladders in it, and a lot of the times where we could get, because we were going through the blue screen, where we could get direct rods in, I would say let's put a rod in there and muscle those cheeks out instead of doing a cable mechanism. So you can see there's an awful lot of movement for it, because it's a lot bigger than it's meant to appear in the film, just like Slimer was bigger in real life than it's meant to appear in the film. But it looks small there, but it actually holds up pretty good. When it flips, that's our rod puppet. That really was probably 3 feet. 3 feet in diameter, because we had to have room for all the motors. We didn't have the tiny little servos that we have today back then. Wow, that actually was not embarrassing to me. Finally.
No, it looks really good, and it's very George. It's very Screaming Mad George.
Yeah, it was so funny. Because his whole thing is he's just Screaming Mad George, for those of you that don't know, is a Japanese artist. And he doesn't take drugs at all. Didn't take drugs back then. Even everybody else was. But he was in a band. He came from Tokyo. Then he came from Tokyo to New York. Learned to speak a little bit of English. Had a band in New York called the Mad. And then, okay, wait a minute. I have to interrupt to tell this story. Cracking up on set again. Every time before James would get on that escalator, and he's got those long fingernails, he would go, "Here I go," but not meant to be on camera. He was just talking to himself. "Here I go," like a little child. Oh my God!
And that looks great too.
Yeah, it looks like those shitty effects in the thing. Oh my God, this is killing me. Can we turn this off? What was I saying? I was saying something before.
Here I go.
No, before that. Talking about the Mad George.
Yeah, Mad George.
Yeah, so I met him on Ghostbusters, and I had a really good friend, a writer named Shinji Nikako. I don't know if you remember Shinji.
No.
Well, Shinji had a really cute wife, and they moved from Japan to Los Angeles to cover the effects industry and write books about the effects industry. Okay, I'm telling you, this is a nod to hallucinogens. Watch this. It's like they're drinking ayahuasca, for fuck's sake. See?
And also the T-shirt he's wearing the whole movie.
Oh, it's
just
ridiculous.
It's so like.
I'm going to say that next time I have an ayahuasca ceremony right before I drink it. Look at his eyes. Okay, and you'll see. Look, okay, God damn it. I'm never going to get back to the point. Well, they're going to get high here.
All right, so George.
Okay. So Shinji Nikako had a really cute wife named Tomi, and so they came by when we were shooting on Ghostbusters one day to visit, and I go to hug Tomi and go, "Hey, how are you?" And I realized it was Screaming Mad George, because he would tease his hair up, wear full makeup, and practically wear a dress, like large, long billowing black robes and Japanese toe boots and stuff. Really interesting guy. So he was there. He was visiting from New York. And so I said, "Hey, you want to help puppeteer Slimer?" And so he did, and we became friends. He moved out and to Los Angeles, and the first film I put him on was it this one? No, it was Poltergeist 2. I put him in charge of the Noble Craig guy. So, in any case, what the hell is my point? This movie's so good, it keeps distracting me. Okay, so Mad George was in charge of. I remember what I was going to say. So his whole thing is he's just like a
Surreal.
Salvador Dali surrealist, Max Ernst. So he would do his sculpture. His private work would be like, instead of a guy having a head, he'd have a large hand, and he would be so proud of it when he's showing his portfolio. He'd go, "Instead of head, Instead of head, hand. And he'd be so excited. So when we were designing the flying eye, he was doing the same thing. Instead of tongue, eyeball. And he just everything. Because, when he opens his mouth, it's like his lips are eyelids and his tongue is a giant eyeball. I was so protective of our position on this film that I was annoyed that no one asked us to do the contact lenses for this show. That went through the straight makeup department. And being very protective of typically the makeup effects people do the contact lenses, I was always really annoyed by that. Now, I would prefer the makeup, not to do it because who cares? The lenses look great. Why do I want that responsibility? I got enough stuff to worry about.
And also, you got other things to worry about as an effects artist.
Exactly.
Because, you need, the thing, if anybody knows, when you put the lenses in the eyeballs, you can't have them in there for a certain amount of time. And sometimes actors, if they don't tell you, they could damage their eyes. So you have to be super careful.
Yeah, but come on, you know me. My specialty is making horrifically painful contact lenses. The Fright Night lenses were laminated with iridescent powders and glitter. By the time I got to Innocent Blood with John Landis, we actually were practically putting projectors in the kids' eyes. I even made holographic lenses for that movie. I actually got it to work. Before digital, holographic lenses, but I didn't trust them because the moisture of the eye after a couple of days would start reducing the effect. And so that's why we went with the glowing lenses, but that was a huge contraption as well. And these days, a 6-year-old kid with an iPad can do amazing lenses, like lava flows and stuff like that. It kills me because the eyes are so important.
What do you use digital effects for now? Like as an effects artist, when you're designing stuff, what do you feel comfortable with allowing digital to do?
Well, it depends. Again, I think we were talking earlier that, the catchphrase used to be 20 years ago when digital first reared its ugly head. All the directors didn't even necessarily know what it meant, but they say, let's go digital with everything. Well, they didn't even have to, right? And it's come full circle now, and now all the directors are saying, let's go practical, let's throwback, let's, go back to the basics. It depends on the budget. Like I'm doing the show now where I had a perfect way to do a couple of things, and I really wanted to. And then, of course, they said, well, we need to get your budget down by $20,000. And so I said, well, these two really cool effects I wanted to do that I know we could do amazingly, nobody else is going to do it my way, so you're not going to get a competing bid that's similar. So let's put those off. Let's throw those back to digital. So, it's kind of it's a dance back and forth, and it almost always has to do with money. It just, again, depends on the director and what they want to do. But, excuse me, the true problem with practical is it, it takes forever on set. No director likes that.
Well, where we're at now is that there is no time. You really, if you're going to have to spend time to do an effect right, it needs to be done either B unit or on a separate day that's just makeup effects.
Yeah.
Because you can't rush stuff. That's the thing too. Is being involved on the makeup side of things, you need the time to set it up. You need the time to do it right, to light it, to make sure it looks good. And when you're doing 13, 14 pages a day, and suddenly you have 3 makeup effects gags in there, you're not going to get to all of them.
Yeah, and then what if you got to restage it, reset it? It's an old conversation at this point, but the main reason stuff is done digitally these days, in my opinion, is because it gives the filmmakers more control and also allows them not to have to make decisions until they absolutely have to, because nobody wants to make a decision and get blamed for it. And once the director says cut on a practical effect, it's done.
Yeah.
So let me promote my book, Rubberhead.
Let's promote your book. Hey, Steve. Let's talk about a book. You have a book, right?
I do. I have a book series. It's a 5-volume series. Volume 1 has been out for a couple of years. It's sold out. Volume 2 is ready to go, and it's way running late from the Kickstarter because I'm negotiating a deal right now with Dark Ink Publishing, and they're going to republish Volume 1 and pick up Volume 2, 3, 4, and 5. And Volume 2 will be coming out in January, and we're going to get Volume 3 out in the same year. And then when they're all out, we're going to do it. We're going to put it out as a 5-volume set, which is great. It's great to have a publisher behind it. It's a really author-friendly publisher. Dark Ink, the guy that runs it, is a writer himself. But what's great about it is that I don't, I'm not in the business of making, like with Kickstarter, I don't want to make T-shirts and pens and stickers.
Yeah.
Now it'll be available in 50 countries, and the audiobook will be up on Audible and all that, and I don't have to worry about anything. But the reason I bring it up is Volume 2 covers Big Trouble in Little China in great detail. So all of you guys, if you want to see a lot of never-before-seen photos and hysterical stories, yeah,
Which we're not getting any of those hysterical stories here. I'm kind of disappointed. So you saved them all for the book. Yeah.
No. Why don't you try walking on your? I didn't want to. Okay, I didn't want to be too hard on John here because he might listen to the. Well, he could always read the chapter too, but I'm a little harder on John in that it's just funnier when I have time to edit and edit and edit. I could make it. It's a very funny chapter, and it's a good 20, 30 pages of the book. So yeah, look for it from Dark Ink Publishing. Next January, Rubberhead Volume 2, kids.
And just so they know, it's you talking about your work in the industry and
it is.
and
It's kind of
stories.
they're huge art books, but they're kind of half memoir, half art books. There's a lot of humor in them. They're really cool. You can actually go to my website, stevejohnsoneffects.com, and order the PDF of Volume 1 and the audiobook too. You can do that now.
And you order it, and then you give them a free lid.
I almost didn't know what you were talking about. A lid. Nobody calls it a lid anymore.
Is that what that's what you were saying earlier, right?
No, exactly
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
Do you remember those days when they were called lids?
No, because I didn't do drugs.
No.
That's actually the first time I've heard
I'm
the term
actually
lid.
I tried CBD oil for the first time yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's like a miracle. It's amazing.
Really?
Yeah. So I took another 15 milligrams before I got in the Uber to come down here. That's why I'm so calm.
Yeah, you were telling me you were nervous before you came in here.
Yeah, I'm not anymore. You calm me down.
Okay.
And the CBD. It's legal in California. Quiet down, kids.
All you need is Anthony and CBD. You want to calm down? Come to the commentary studio. So the Explodo head's going to come up pretty soon. So let's talk a little bit about, did you shoot that practical on set, or did you do that later in post?
All of that was done on set.
Okay. How many times did you end up doing it?
Oh, God, I don't know. The challenge on that, well, I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a challenge, but the fun part of that, this is so funny that he's wearing that lipstick. The fun part of the Thunder explosion is that it's set up, staged, storyboard, shot, and edited like a werewolf transformation. Like if you see a close-up of this, a close-up of that, a closer-up of this. Like we see his hand expand, we see his feet burst out of his boots, and then a couple of stages of his head. But the thing that I'm the most proud of in that sequence is that, here we go, is the stage one head, because it's got a lot of mechanism in it. Its eyes squinch, its mouth works, its lips move, but it also has to have enough room in there for that word. It's so effective, that trick.
Yeah.
No digital, nothing. It just it's already on his head. You just think you see it hit. That is amazing too. What an incredible effect. All practical. Can you imagine if that wouldn't have worked the first time? Can you imagine?
Did you build those?
We did not, actually.
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Special effects department did.
So they had like probably 3 cameras going for this.
I don't remember, but can you imagine that did work the first time? Thank God. But yeah, the Thunderhead, with all of that shit inside of it, the first stage head, the one where after you cut away from the actor and then you cut back to him and you see him start expanding, it still looks like him, and that's really hard to do when you've got that much mechanism inside. And then the other big challenge was when you see his body inflate and his clothes start to tear off. The difficulty there was, how do you dump that much air that quickly? Because the shot can't last more than 2 or 3 seconds, right? So that air has got to be forced really quickly in there. Oh, here we go.
I remember watching this in the theater going, what's going on here? And it's a great misdirection, because you think he's going to do something to stop them in his face.
See, I love that head. One thing we did on these extremities is we tinted the, and that's like cartoony steam coming out like a cartoon. I love that.
But the other thing I didn't understand is what was the point of him exploding?
Well, what do you want him to walk around like a big Stay Puft Thunder guy?
Well,
You
no,
gotta
no,
get
like
rid of him.
what? No, well, no. He.
Oh, why did he do it at all?
He did it himself. I mean, why would he destroy himself? Like
Actually, that's a really good point.
it's like it was
the
just
hell?
because destroyed like the ceiling or maybe, but
This is an effect sequence.
But I mean, if he was exploding and like something came out that poisoned them or did something, that would make sense. But it's like they didn't do anything that he was threatened that he had to explode himself.
No, that's actually that's so funny that I've seen this movie 10 times and that's never even dawned on me. And I did the scene and it never dawned on me. I did the effects. But in any case, on those are all foam rubber. We didn't have silicone back then that we used for animatronics or prosthetics. So one cool trick we did is we dyed the foam rubber blood red and then painted flesh over that. So when it inflated, it starts turning red just right on camera, which I thought was cool. It's subtle, but it...
What about the feet? The hooks when the feet expanded, was that pretty easy?
Yeah, the difficulty there was making the shoes
Did you have
break
to have,
off.
You had to have multiple shoes, or were they breakaway shoes?
No, we made them break away. Yeah, we did that. And then that stuff that's coming out of his nose and his ears, I thought that was a really funny addition to it because it makes it very cartoony. And I can't remember what kind of gas it is, some kind of cylinder of gas we used. And then we just had to have these huge tanks that when we hit the button, it would dump tons of cubic feet of air into the body to get it to inflate quick enough. Because if it doesn't inflate quick enough, you're not going to get it to read in a quick shot.
Was a lot of the head done on second unit, or was it principal unit? You remember?
It certainly appears to be second unit, though you never see it with anybody else. I'm sure it must have been second unit. Yeah.
I know that there's. I know that you talk about you could relax and kind of get things done when you do have that time. I would always find that when you're on the spot on set with makeup trying to make it work, and it is first unit, it's like, oh my God, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. And then when you have the time, then you can relax. Go, okay, we can do this right, because there's always that pressure.
It's not just like pressure. Here's what I compare it to: when you're on first unit trying to get an effect ready. When the sun's going down, when it's almost time to wrap, it's like the producers and the director and everybody on the crew is standing around with they're a firing squad.
Yes.
With semi-automatic rifles saying, "Make it work now, or we'll murder you." There's so much pressure.
Because I supervised effects for so many years. Whenever I have to do it on my own sets, I have this paranoia because I know that it always fails the first time, like what you're doing the blood or anything.
Yeah.
So what I do always is we actually rehearse it multiple times without the effect happening or without blood.
Mm-hmm.
We'll actually shoot 2 or 3 takes if we have to have interactive hands or with the motions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I always make sure we do that and get it done and get the thing, and then at the very end we do the effect. Because for whatever reasons, inevitably either the blood isn't going to work or something happens. You got to redress. At least you have some part of something there.
So, like, let me see if I understand what you're saying. If you've got a neck appliance on, you're going to do a neck slashing gag.
Yeah.
You got your blood all ready to go. You would just shoot it without the blood.
I would shoot it without the blood. I would do it. I would do it without any of the effect first. If we're going to do a blood spray, like in the zombie movie, you have someone biting on someone's head. We would do it multiple times to make sure the actor is, because the other thing is the X factor is you may be great at what you're doing as an effects artist, but the actor themselves, sometimes they don't know what you want. So,
exactly, and then there's 2 actors,
and you'd have the the actor doing it, and then they miss the mark, or they're just kind of and they're not doing it right. So you have to get them getting it right. So you have to rehearse it multiple times, and sometimes shoot it multiple times until they got it right. Then you're going to do it, and then you're going to really do it for real.
Yeah.
And it also helps the effects people ease into getting ready for that timing as well, as opposed to that rushing thing that you say, where you do it and it's like, oh shit, and then you have to, you have to clean up the makeup effect, and that's like 30, 45 minutes, and then you're done, and you don't have time to redo it. So that was the thing that I learned from the makeup effects side of things, to kind of to make sure we don't screw the pooch.
Yeah, this stuff is all prototypical. None of it, by any natural right, should work. It's built so quickly and it's always different. But somehow it does.
I wish they would have done a second one. I wish this franchise had 3 movies in it.
No, it's almost over now, isn't it?
Yeah, we got through it.
Wow, how do you like that?
Do you have anything else you on your little
No,
notes?
I just checked. We covered it all actually. I pimped my books. We talked about lots of drugs and shoplifting. Got a little big trouble in. Insulted a whole bunch of people. There's one final effect.
Yes, okay. Well, let's talk about it because we won't have a lot of time to talk about it once it goes past. So.
Well, it's just it is set up for a sequel because he's driving away in the Pork Chop Express. You see the wild man climb up.
Is there?
This is a great ending. Let's talk about this for a second. See? It's just so unexpected, like this whole movie, because you expect them to get together, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Is there anything that you like about the Wild Man? Anything? Let's try to leave it on a positive note.
Let's think. I like the fact that I hated it the most out of all these characters.
Okay. If you could do one, if you could have had your way of what you would have done with the Wild Man, what would you have done with the Wild Man that would have made you happy?
First of all, gotten a performer that could perform. Secondly, do a completely different head on him. And thirdly, not do those feet or get the guy to walk on them properly. Because it's just a disaster.
But you didn't know at the time that he wasn't going to be able to get on his feet. I mean, that's a good idea in theory if the actor did it.
Yeah. No, it is. Lon Chaney Jr. did it, and he was drunk the whole time they shot that movie. There he comes. This is so cool because this was shot on stage, and it has that great old Hollywood look because you can tell.
See, that arm looks good.
But look at that face. Come on. It's EC. It's EC
comic.
It's Creepshow.
It reminded me of Fluffy from Creepshow a little bit. There was definitely a Fluffy kind of thing. As this is concluding with the credits, I always love this John Carpenter's theme song. You know.
Oh my God.
That's John Carpenter singing.
I know. There's gonna be big trouble in Little China.
And that's
ridiculous. It's so silly.
Nick Castle, another director, and Tommy Lee Wallace, another director. The 3 of them were the Coupe de Villes, and they sang this. And I remember I was a journalist at the time.
Hey, guess what? It fits the style of the movie.
Yeah, it does. I remember I was starting to do journalism for the local paper at the time, and when this came out, and I got the music video for this, and I was so excited for this movie, and I had no idea what to make of it. Like, before it was like, and when I saw it, I was just like floored. This is like the coolest movie.
Yeah. So you liked it when it first came out?
Yeah, I did. I really liked it. It wasn't the thing.
Is this John singing?
Yes, this is John singing. Yeah.
Oh my God, what a set of balls he's got. This is so different than his typical style of writing.
Yeah. Well, it's a very 80s song.
It's as 80s as it gets.
It's got the weird drum thing going on, and it's like, the keyboards that were very popular in 1986.
Now, I'll bet you a lot of people don't know that that's actually John singing in his own composition.
There's a music video.
Hey, look, visual effects crew. Boss
there
Film
you go. Who's
Corporation.
that guy? Creatures Created By.
Oh, look at that. That's a neat credit. Wow.
You're still in contact with many of these people?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just saw John Bruno, the art director for many of these films, including Ghostbusters, and Richard, actually. I just saw them at both at the big Ghostbusters event on the Sony lot a couple weeks ago. Yeah, there was this huge thing. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, the Ghostbusters thing.
Yeah.
Are you in...
Screaming Mad George, Eric Fiedler, Richard Ruiz. Look at that. It's a decent-sized crew.
It's a very inbred makeup industry because everybody, even when they go off to other things, everybody works with everybody. It's so small and so communal.
The thing about Boss Film is I had all the best of the best on my team for all of those films, and ultimately every single person ended up opening their own studio. All of the good people did. Rick Lazzarini, Mad George. I can't even think of all the people that did, but a nice big handful of them opened their own studios and went on to great success and ended up being my competition.
Who would be Jack Burton if they did the movie today? Do you think they were talking about The Rock? Could you think? I think The Rock could potentially do it.
Maybe.
But I think if they do it, it has to be like you still need to have Jack Burton. It needs to be his son.
Yeah.
That's the only way I think that works.
Now, I'm a big fan of Timothy Oliphant's comedy.
So looks like this is the end of our Big Trouble in
That's
Little
it.
China commentary. I'm Anthony C. Ferrante, and for Reverend Entertainment and Shout Factory, I want to thank Steve Johnson for coming in today and not stealing anything from me. I better move my stuff away
It's
from me.
not too late. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope all you guys enjoy this.
Thank you so much.
You bet.